I always tell people you only need one thing to be an investor. It's capital, right? If you have money, you can be an investor. And you only need one thing to be an entrepreneur. You need to get out of the fucking couch and do something. Right? You just need to do stuff.
Omri, thank you so much for taking out the time. It's an absolute pleasure being here. Thank you for hosting us in this gorgeous office in the new recording studio. I want to start off with learning a little bit more about your early journey. So where did you grow up? How did life start? What did your parents do?
How life started?
How did life start? In the sense that...
It was a rough entrance to the world. I just rolled right in. I can't remember anything. So born and raised in Israel, as you can hear from my silly accent. Just regular high school, went to the army, as you do, to the intelligence corps, to the technological unit, where a lot of startup came from. But I was just a regular soldier there. Went to university, studied biology, fell in love with that.
How long were you in the army and when did you join?
You join after you finish high school for 3 years. That's regular for boys. Went to university, learned biology, then immediately started my PhD in biology, some hardcore biochemistry. And I got the Fulbright fellowship and then came to Stanford in my postdoc in the medical school for 4 years, pipetting in the lab. And then Stanford is such an entrepreneurial place. I started a company building software for bioengineers back in 2011. And I ran for 5.5 years as a CEO. That's how I lost my hair, gained 50 pounds. That was rough. Like, if people tell you being a CEO is easy, they lie. But persevered. We're able to sell the company back in 2016 to a DNA synthesis company called Twist Bioscience. Then I became the head of corp dev for that company until just before the IPO. Then the IPO, then luckily enough, there was a big bubble in 2020, 2021. They became a $10 billion company for a while. So
hopefully that's when you sold.
Nah, I wish, I sold a little bit too early. So that's how everybody made money. But then started my own fund, a $10 million pre-seed fund called TechBio. So I set up the name back in 2018. And after 2 years, NFX that invested in my company and my fund, they were the one inspiring me to start the fund. And one of my biggest LP, they told me it was a test and you passed, so come join us. So I joined them in the middle of COVID back in 2020, and I've been here ever since.
COVID, that's an interesting time to join as the biotech partner. I'll come back to that, but I want to go to, so my dad was in the military in Pakistan, and a lot of my friends joined the military. And ever since I've thought about what impacts does joining the military or going to the academy have on someone who's 18. So what was military's impact on you?
It depends where you go. I think if you go to kind of the front and you see people die, it's very different. I went to a very kind of nice technological unit. I think you learn patience. Sometimes, you're getting orders, and sometimes the people who give you orders are not the smartest, but you need to you have to be patient, and you have to have grit, and you have to survive, and last. I think that translates very well to entrepreneurship. But I think also you learn how to work in teams, especially intelligence corps, some other places, it's really life and death, and you get a lot of budgets, and you get a lot of responsibilities. So a lot of startup came out of Israel from the army.
From the army, interesting. From the technical core.
From all over the place, but mainly the technical core.
So you mentioned it teaches you discipline. It teaches you to work with people and follow commands when sometimes unnecessary. Does that play a role in deal making?
In deal making, I don't think.
Or what part of entrepreneurship does it play a role in? Do you think?
I think it helps. Being a founder, especially in Israel, it's not a regular army, nobody likes to follow orders in Israel. Everybody is very independent. But you learn, to act, first of all. I always tell people you only need one thing to be an investor. It's capital. right? If you have money, you can be an investor. And you only need one thing to be an entrepreneur. You need to get out of the fucking couch and do something, right? You just need to do stuff.
Bias for action.
Bias for action. So it teach you bias for action. It teach you how to work with group, how to actually deliver in time. So a lot of things really translate well to entrepreneurship.
So working with a group, I think you don't get to choose who you work with, right? In many ways in the world of business, you can still, self-select into people you align with culturally, philosophically, but in the military, whatever group you have to work with, you're just like put your head down and despite,
Yes and no. I think it's definitely true in some units, but I think in the intelligence corps, they pre-select for pretty good, smart people. So yeah, you don't have a choice really, but it's kind of self-selecting for a specific group of people. So yeah.
Interesting. Because of resource constraints in the sense of like the number of people available who join the Israeli military, do you think it teaches you something about being resourceful as?
For sure, it's part of it. You have to be innovative. You have to work with what you have. Yeah, I think that's one reason why we have so many startups in Israel. Not the only one, but again, I'm not there anymore. I'm here. And I think for biotech it's very different. Like somebody told me, how do you make a small fortune in biotech? You start with a big fortune in tech, and then you want to have some meaning, so you go to biotech to make a small fortune. But what we see right now is a bunch of people from tech that made some money, know how to start a company, but now want to solve a problem they care about because somebody in their family is sick or they want to live longer.
A lot of centimillionaires starting or co-founding.
Yeah, and so you get both the chance to make money, but also the impact.
So I'll fast forward to, you mentioned that you came to Stanford and there was a lot of entrepreneurial energy around, and that's when you decided you should start a company. But can you dive a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah, sure. So
not everyone at Stanford starts a company either. Right?
Yeah, and it depends on the space, right? In software, I think the culture is that you don't need to go to college at all. You can drop out and start a company. But I think in biology, the culture was, at least when I did my PhD, is you have your role models, the professors, right? And you want to be like them. They are the winners. So the winners, a good student, go to do a postdoc and go back to academia. And the losers, they go to industry, and nobody knows what industry is. And coming to Stanford, it's very entrepreneurial place. And I think, it's almost like monkey see, monkey do. I had a postdoc next to me in the lab next door that started a company. And I was like, oh, you can start a company? It's a thing? I didn't know you can start a company. I didn't know it's like in our cards even. Like, what? How do you, that's what you do. So seeing him start a company really inspired me. And obviously, once you get into it, I lived in Berkeley. My wife did a postdoc in Berkeley. So, I drove every day an hour back and forth from Stanford. And I think I learned more listening to podcasts on entrepreneurship and technology, commuting back and forth and pipetting in the lab like a monkey for 4 years.
That drive was a blessing.
Yeah, but again, because once you understand entrepreneurship is a thing and you start pulling the thread, then, back in 2011, 2012, like 2010, the entire podcast scene were coming alive, the iPhone was out, there were podcasts, and so much of the information that was siloed and mysterious became something everybody
publicly accessible.
This week in startup, this week in tech, you can just learn and understand the lingo of, that's how you start a company, that's what you do. And that really helped me,
How did you know what you wanted to work on?
It's a good question. So I was always kind of a curious person. And during my time, first degree and PhD, I saw kind of the price of both reading and writing DNA going down dramatically. So I lived through the Human Genome Project. So when I was doing my first degree, it was the first draft of publish, and you saw the price of just reading a whole human genome goes down from $3 billion a genome to today less than $100. So real steep decrease in price and huge exponential increase in capability. And then when I was doing my PhD and postdoc, I saw the price of writing DNA. So not reading the analog data, turning it into digital biological data, but the other way around, taking a digital DNA letters like ATT, AAGG, and printing it, just making the DNA. I saw that price going down dramatically. And I was doing my PhD, doing genetic designs. And instead of using the old method of cloning DNA, where you need to kind of use enzyme to cut the DNA and enzyme to paste the DNA, it's almost like writing a thread letter. We need to kind of find the letters in the paper and just glue them to a paper. You can just synthesize the DNA, so it moves from that to almost like using a word editor, writing the sequence you want, press print, and getting the DNA.
I like that analogy.
And I didn't have any software tools to build whole genomes and sequences. You know, the only tools I had was a word editor. So I thought, well, we should build that. Like in the future, people will be designing genomes. In the future, people will need the same tools, the same IDE or same CAD tools you use to either write software or design a building. You need to do it to build the genomes, to do synthetic biology. So thought about it, created a company called Genome Compiler, which is a horrible name, but we compiled genomes, so I guess that's what we did. Recruited 3 friends from Israel that were all at Intel in Israel at the time, and built a prototype, raised money, and went from there.
Talk more about recruiting friends to start a company or working with friends.
Yeah, so one of my best friends in Israel, we have a picture of us in the crib together when we were young, was at Intel at the time and then in Intel Capital, and he had a group of friends that really want to they loved Intel but like had enough and want to go to startups. And I went to Israel. I was doing my postdoc here, but came to visit Israel, and I just talked about what I'm doing, what I'm excited about. And he told me, you really need to talk to my friends. So I was sitting there in the kitchen, in the living room in front of my friends, and just plugged my computer into the TV and showed them like all these videos about biology and translation, transcription, like things that you learn in biology. It's like the central dogma of biology, but blew their mind. Like, oh, that's how it works. Looks like we work in code, you work in biology code, like we write software, you write the software of life. Very cool, very interesting. So I got them excited. They came to visit me at Stanford. I showed them how the work is being done and like my vision for the company. And then they decided to join. And I'm still involved with them. So 2 of my co-founders. So we sold our companies. They stayed at Twist, the company that acquired us, until they finish vesting. They moved to Monday.com for a year because we know the founders, but then they want to go back to biology. So I introduced them to a bunch of professors, and then they found a professor I really like, and another AI researcher that I really like, and started a company together, and I invested in them and sit on the board. So I'm still involved with them.
Oh, that's incredible. Is the company that started part of your Race to 160 thesis?
So we have here on the wall the Race to 160. That's a thesis I have around longevity, which I think is the future of biology. I think right now, when people talk about healthcare, in my mind, it's sick care. What do I mean? It's not healthcare where they're trying to keep you healthy. It's you're getting sick, you go to the doctor, and he's trying to fix what you already have. And most of the time, it's too late, right? The best healthcare is to be healthy, is to be young. The best healthcare is to be 22 and young, and like everything works. And I think we're in transition from sick care to healthcare. For example, there is a big new category of drugs, the GLP drugs, those Ozempic and Mounjaro of the world that I believe 80% of Americans will use in the future. One of the biggest drug categories right now. It makes billions and billions of dollars for Novo and Lilly. And the reason is it helps people stay healthy. It's almost the first longevity drugs. Not that it increases your lifespan, but being overweight is accelerated aging. So something that helps that, help with diabetes, and help with sleep apnea, and help with fertility, and help with Alzheimer, and help with heart disease, help with everything else. And every longevity drug will have the same effect. It will be something you give to healthy people so they'll stay healthy, and will affect a bunch of indications, not just one indication, not just this specific cancer, it's all cancers, all heart disease. So I think it's the biggest market in the world. Who doesn't want to live longer and healthier? So the market 100%. Is everyone. And I think it will, I think more than that, I think as society, we have to develop longevity technologies because otherwise as a species, we're kind of screwed. Like right now, most of the world, I think other than Israel and Sub-Saharan Africa, the population is below replacement. So people are not having enough babies. And, I don't know, people are aware, but China
Japan
currently
has the same problem.
Japan is losing around
Yeah,
2
yeah.
million people a year right now,
Yeah.
but China is going to go down from 1.4 million people today.
Yeah.
Some people say all the way to 300 million
In what
by
time
the end of the
span?
century.
Oh my God. I saw some figures around 800 million by 2060 or something.
It's crazy.
It's
So
pretty
it's
crazy.
worse than the
Yeah.
Black Death. And then the worst, I think, country is South Korea. They have 0.65 children per
Yeah.
woman. You know, it means that for every 200 South Korean, the next generation will have 65. And the next generation will have like 6. Like in 2 generations, they're done.
Yeah.
Like unless they change the trajectory, it takes time to change the trajectory. And the way to solve it, I think, is to work on longevity and fertility. Fertility is just the first thing that we lose over age. It's the
Right.
first thing that gets aged, right? So I think so many companies we see right now trying to tackle longevity and fertility so people can live longer, be more productive for longer,
Right.
can have kids longer in life. I think we have to do that for the sake of civilization. So the race to 160 is, as humanity, we already doubled lifespan several times. We used to live for 20, like a few thousand years ago, people lived to their 20s. And, you know, a few hundred years ago, people lived to their 40s. And today we live to our 80s. So we already doubled lifespan twice. And I call it the race to 160. I believe we only have one doubling to go.
Yeah.
Because when we get to 160, it means that you solved all the issues you have. Like there will not be new issue cropping when you're 200. Like if you got to 160, it means that you solved all, you solved all neurodegenerative diseases, you solved all cancer, you solved everything.
So then what are you dying of?
And then you can you go as much as you want.
So you're saying if we get to 160, we're going to keep going. Is that the concept?
We just go like that. It will be like exponential that goes to the moon, because it means you won't just randomly get there. Currently, our technology, our biology, if you're extremely lucky, if you're born with no genetic diseases and you're extremely healthy and you don't get into any accident or whatever, we have example of people living to their 120s.
Yeah.
Right? We know people that live to 122. That's kind of the world
Their
record.
functionality varies, but
that's a current technology that we have. That's our biology. So you won't get to 160 just by luck or just slightly improving.
Genetics,
you have to solve all the issues. Yeah. And I have a ABCD plan for aging that I can happy to tell you about.
Please say more. I saw the plan.
Well, so the plan is, I call it the ABCD plan for aging, and I usually start with D, because plan D is death, and currently we're all on plan D. It doesn't matter how many supplements you take and how well you sleep, you won't live to 160, right? That plan sucks, and we're all on that plan right now. Plan C is cryonics. Cryonic, people are working on it to freeze people, maybe thaw them in the future where there'll be solutions. You think about it, somebody who had AIDS like 30 years ago, if you can freeze them today, you'll have a cure for him, or at least a solution. He doesn't have to die. So
is there a company in the space that you admire?
There are many companies in the space. I think Laura Deming, which is one of the most known longevity investors and people are working on one of them. But I don't love this approach just because it expects future generation to solve our problem. We give agency for future generation instead of us solving the problem. But people who like the space say, like, this is the one thing we believe we can do in our lifetime. At least solve the freezing part, and maybe the future will solve the thawing part. And I even have a friend that his goal is to be the most interesting person alive, so there'll be a reason for future generation to thaw him. He's even trying to remember kind of crypto, wallet code in his mind, so there'll be enough of a benefit for people to try to resurrect him. So that's plan C. Plan B is bioengineering. So in my mind, is trying to understand the biology of different diseases and one by one solve them. But the problem with plan B is, unless you solve all the diseases, you don't really move the needle. For example, if you cure cancer today, you'll increase lifespan by 3 years.
Right.
Because usually older people get cancer. And if you cure cancer, you'll get Alzheimer's. If you cure Alzheimer's, you get a heart disease. You need to cure everything.
Right.
But that's something
it's not the exponential cure that you're looking for.
Yeah, but that's something very valid, and so many people are investing in doing that. And then plan A, what I like the most is alternative bodies or replacement.
Yeah.
And the notion behind that is nature solved aging, right? Nature solved aging. Older people can have babies, and the babies start at 0, right? So nature know how to refresh lifespan if you go through one cell. There's something magical about having a baby. Is born, is 0. It doesn't matter if their parents are 60 years old.
Yeah.
The baby is 0 years old. Yeah. And humans solve aging for cars or buildings. How do we do that? We just replace parts.
Replace parts, yeah.
So the notion behind replacement is you don't have to understand aging and you don't have to stop aging. You just need to find a way to get young, genetically identical replacement parts and just replace. So there's a new ARPA-H project to do gradual brain replacement, to find young neurons, initially for stroke, but then for just adults. One of our companies, Renewal Bio, amazing technology out of the Weizmann Institute, they were able to create human embryos from stem cells. So no sperm, no egg, no uterus. Take adult people's cells, turn them into induced pluripotent stem cells, turn that into, they call it stembroid, or stem cell-derived embryo model, grow that outside of the uterus. We publish on the cover of Nature when we got to day 14. Currently, we're day 23 and growing. And the idea is, again, get young, genetically identical bone marrow stem cells, hepatocyte, brain tissue, potentially eggs for infertility, etc. So, yeah.
Does the concept of an artificial womb fall under A?
So under A, there's a bunch of approaches. One of them is kind of the cloning or getting young genetically identical human tissue. Some of it is like eGenesis, that they are modifying pigs, so you can use the organs for transplantation without immune response. I think the artificial womb, there are a few companies pitched us, a company called Kangaroo or other companies. I think it's more on the fertility angle. A bunch of women cannot have babies because they don't have a uterus or they have issues. So for them, some people would prefer, I think, to have a baby outside of for medical and other issues. I definitely see it coming.
For each of those, in your plan A, B, C, D, what do you foresee in the next 25 years that people are not even people can't even fathom right now, right? And what would need to happen in the next 5 years to get there?
Yeah, the state of longevity right now is pretty dismal. There is exactly 0 FDA-approved drugs that affect lifespan. By the way, FDA doesn't even consider lifespan a disease, like aging a disease.
Yeah, that's partly the problem, I guess.
You cannot get a drug for aging. You can get a drug for stroke. You can get a drug for osteoporosis of the knee, but you cannot get a drug for aging, though it's changing. The first company that might get a drug for aging will be Loyal here in San Francisco, and that will be for dog aging. That's the first time the FDA actually approved aging as an indication, especially starting for dogs, but I think if our dogs live longer, we'll eat the dog food. Things are changing. I think obviously there's a lot of energy behind it. A lot of people with money would like to live longer if they could. The problem is the lack of scientifically valid things to do. But this is also changing. There is a bunch of new approaches that might work. One of them, I don't know if you heard about New Limit or Altos Labs or Retro, a bunch of companies that start with a lot of money behind them to work on the partial reprogramming area. So what is reprogramming? Nobel Prize winning discovery a few years ago. Yamanaka factor is a 4-protein factor, 4-transcription factor that can take any adult cell and turn it into what looks like a young embryonic state cell that can differentiate to any cell type. So it almost turned the clock backwards in time, right? You take an adult cells with short telomeres and a bunch of epigenetics issue and reprogram it back to something that looks like a young embryonic cells. Amazing, right? So the question was, what will happen if you can, instead of fully reprogram a cell all the way back to embryonic state, and the problem is cancer is also reprogrammed, right? It takes a differentiated cell and turn it into something that looks embryonic and reproduce. So it's very dangerous, right? So what happens if we can partially reprogram those cells to be younger, but not to lose our identity? So either by using a subset of Yamanaka factors or just use it for a short period of time just to make the cell slightly younger and then stop, or find new factors that can do it in a safe way. So there are a bunch of companies working on that. Again, the cycles of clinical trials just take time. So it will take time, but that's one approach. There's an approach of removing senolytic cells, so cells that get senescence and start to get other cells sick. it was shown in mice that if you clear all senescent cells, the mice live 30% longer. So people are trying to develop senolytics or drugs that affect senescent cells in humans. There's a bunch of different approach, but it's still like right now what I tell people, because people always ask me because I'm investing in the space, like what should I do right now? So mainly I tell them like Brian Johnson, don't die. Like, it's very easy to age faster and die. Like don't do stupid things like smoking or too much alcohol, be obese, like all of those things.
Don't eat fries every day.
Yeah, try to be healthy in general. The 20-80 is like, don't be obese. It's fine to be slightly overweight. Try to sleep well. Don't be crazy about it. Try to enjoy life, have some community, right? Yeah. It won't get you to live to 160, but it will give you 10 years of healthy lifespan maybe. And just hope that in that time frame, the really radical solution that our people are working on now will mature. But I don't know if it's 15 years, unless you believe kind of the Ray Kurzweil kind of singularity, hand-waving AI will save us. I think if you're looking for actual biology that can work, it will take longer. But I can definitely see it happening. I think the main issues right now, it's not even technological, it's more ethical and cultural issues.
I guess to your plan B, which is around bioengineering, where our mutual friend Trevor is building Mammoth Biosciences. What's possible? Like a lot of things are possible with gene editing today, right? Which you probably cannot get FDA approvals for.
It's not even FDA approval. It's so for the entire.
And some of those are ethical.
Genetic disease issues. There are new tools. CRISPR is one of them, but there are many other tools where you can reach to the code of life and just change it. So when I was at Stanford, one of the people I knew had a genetic disease. He knew about it early on. It's just one letter in 3 billion genetic letters is one that turns from A to D and A to T in a specific gene that. And then the horrible part about it is he knew about it for a while. And he knew that when he'll get to 40, it will start manifesting. And the way it manifests, this specific disease, is like getting early Alzheimer and getting like early dementia. And he started getting that, and there was nothing he could do. And you just want to reach in because you understand why it happens. It's this gene, this nucleotide, this.
And he knew exactly when it would happen.
This 0 to 1, right? In code, you would just get in and change the 0 to 1 and press compile and you solve it. Like in biology, it's so complicated. So now we have the modalities, we have the tools to change the code.
Is CRISPR one of those tools?
CRISPR is one of those tools, and Mammoth has a huge amount of
What's
IP.
stopping us from doing that today? Like,
the main issue right now, other than the cycles of clinical trials that take a long time and the cost of, it's not a cheap therapies, is deliver, right? Because you have the genetic code that you need to deliver. You have the program, the CRISPR protein or the CRISPR RNA, whatever, that you need to deliver to the right cell types. And currently we have fairly good delivery, not great for the liver, but we have companies, for example, trying to develop delivery technologies for other cell types. So delivery is a huge, huge problem right now. And that's one of the biggest unlock. It's almost easier to design a human being. It's better to design a baby or select for a healthy baby than modify it. Like, it's way harder.
Modify a 40-year-old who's going to get Alzheimer's.
Yeah, look, if you ask me what will be different in 50 years that people think is crazy, I think in the future having a regular baby, the old-fashioned way, will be crazy. Like, how dare you like risk your child like that? Your child, the most important thing in your life. You just put it into chance, like random chance. Like, are you crazy? When you can just design it and improve it and optimize it and make sure your child doesn't have cancer and doesn't have diseases, because all the rare diseases are very, very rare, but in aggregate, 30% of people have rare diseases, right? It's crazy to me. Like, I think in the future, it'll be pretty obvious, hence also artificial wombs, that the way to have a baby is ex utero.
Another friend of mine, have you heard of this company, Nucleus Genomics?
No.
No? Oh, he's it's like 23andMe, but they're doing some things differently, and so he launched this new matching app, which takes your DNA and matches it with your potential partner to tell you what diseases your
the funny thing is in
children
Israel,
might have.
The Orthodox Jews which are not very technological at all, but the Ashkenazic Orthodox Jews, because of all the genetic disease, have something similar, but it's the way they do the shidduch.
You mentioned that.
They do the genetic screening, and then they introduce matches together, so they don't match people with genetic problems.
Actually, he talks about that in his launch video when he launched
A cool company that I saw is a lot of people are not doing IVF. And when you do IVF, you get usually a bunch of embryos, and you can do genetic screening on those embryos when they're still embryos. And I saw a company that takes all the embryo that you create through IVF, sequence it, and then give you a bunch of metrics for each embryo. Sex, IQ, height, potential for other disease, whatever. So you can track everything, and you can make a more interesting decision about which of the embryos you want.
Right. That's probably another level of detail. Yeah, I've been trying to convince my girlfriend to do that test, but we haven't gotten there yet.
One by one. First, get married.
So you touched upon Singularity and Ray Kurzweil there. I saw that you were an student ambassador to Singularity way back in the day.
Yeah, way back. So I was doing my postdoc from 2007 to 2011. And that when Singularity University started, and they published a lot of videos, and I think a lot of their videos, especially the biotech guy, Andrew Hessel from Singularity, really inspired me. And I sent this video for my team members, just, hey, look, that's how the future can look like. And I think SU got into a bad place after like 10, 15 years. But initially, I think the core was very noble. It was good people trying to incentivize people to solve the world's biggest problem with the most advanced technologies. And when you look back at Ray Kurzweil's books, which he wrote 20 years ago, and he talked about exponential increase and singularity 2045, right? He also, in the same book, wrote about AI in 2029. And people thought he was crazy. People thought he was crazy. And now you ask people about AI, it's like 2029, it's like 2025. Like, you're kidding me? It's like next year. So, and that's the thing about exponential, which is very important for investment, right? Because our entire business is based on exponential, right? And power laws, right? Investment is a strong power law. Most of your portfolio will not return the fund. A few companies will. And for those companies to return the fund, they have to grow exponentially because they need to grow to be a multi-billion-dollar companies in less than 10 years. That's how our model works. So you are trained to learn and identify exponentials, but still it's hard because it's so weird. We are not used to exponentials. We don't used to things changing so rapidly. But that's technology exponential.
I agree. What I'm trying to understand is with that Singularity experience, you mentioned that the early days were about learning about some of these exponential technologies, right? And do you think being exposed early on in your life and your career to how exponential technologies work, that like probably, looking back, wired you differently when it comes to what you wanted to work on, what you wanted to invest in, and maybe even led to the race to 160 thesis?
Yeah, it definitely was part of it. Especially, I was involved several years there, so I got to hear the same people talking again and again, so it really hammered to your brain. And by the way, you live through it. Like, you live through the exponential of, as I told you, DNA synthesis and DNA sequencing. So you've seen it. And you've seen how fast companies can grow and compound. So, though it doesn't matter how many times you hear about it, and in general, in my career, I realize all the time there's a huge difference between knowing something mentally and knowing something emotionally. It's very different. Like, mentally, I understood about exponent. Emotionally, I'm still surprised like everybody else. And I see it all the time. Like, as an investor, like, mentally, that during a bubble, you should invest, you should sell. It's crazy, right? And mentally, that during a downturn, you should buy, right? When the blood in the water, that's when you need to buy, right?
But does it translate into action?
Emotionally, during the bubble, everybody's making money, the prices are crazy, but then there is a second round and valuation is going up, like, I'm missing up. And then during the downturn, oh my God, even my best companies can only get like a down round. Like, how can this random company be successful and everybody else is not? Like, so, to be a good investor, I think, or just in general in life, you have to understand the emotional part. It exists, it's hard, but still let your mental side win in specific areas. Yeah.
That probably takes a while, right? Your mind is like a muscle and probably trains your mind to be more in sync with or like decouple from your emotions more so.
Yeah, I told somebody that my definition for a founder is suffer stoically.
What do you mean by that?
To be a founder, you need to suffer stoically. It's almost a definition. And stoically is a big part of it. I think to be an investor, you also have to be stoic to a point. I'm not the best of it. I can be emotional, but it's very important. And
So you have to go through it. There's no other way.
There's no other way.
No
you have
other
to, and you have to understand that it doesn't matter how smart you think you are or how well you understand the problem. It still is going to be extremely hard to go through it and have some hard discussions and people that you like, and you have to say no and everything else. And I actually wrote a spicy blog post, which I called "Why Investors Are Assholes," or how investors become assholes. And it painted a big target on my back, because now some of my founders are sending it to me. Hey, man, you wrote that, and like, hey, you start to act like that. Yeah. But by the way, that's why I wrote it. I want people to tell me if I'm getting there, because when all my partners are entrepreneurs, so we started the fund that we wish we had when we were raising money. And, there is all the bad behavior that traditional investor has, like, they ghost you, they look at their phone when you're pitching, they won't tell you yes or no, they kind of misbehave, they stress you out, and what you realize when you become an investor for a while is the incentives that drives you towards that behavior. Like, first of all, because you have the power in the power dynamics, nobody will give you real feedback, right? So you see it all the time where, there is never a good reason for them to give you the real feedback because they're afraid that, you won't invest or you do something bad. So you don't get good feedback on your behavior. That's one. Two, you have to say no most of the time. Like VC is 99% saying no. So you become negative. Like you find reason to say no all the time. Three is you get heartbreak of like, even when you say yes, most of your investment doesn't work. It's another thing mentally, but emotionally it's very hard. Like it's one thing to understand the power law. There'll be very few companies that matter and everything else doesn't matter. But those companies that doesn't matter have people that you care about and has technology you care about. So it can be heartbreaking when it doesn't work, and especially when sometimes the technology, but sometimes the founders you're doing the right thing and they're doing the wrong thing. So you get jaded. But in this business, you can only win if you're optimistic. Because you lose money not on the bad investment. You lose money on the investment you didn't make. Like the power companies you haven't invested because you weren't in the mind frame to invest. You weren't optimistic enough to invest. Because the best companies will be better than you expect. So going to the meeting and trying to be optimistic, trying to say, okay, see all the good things that can happen when your daily life is all the crappy things that happens, is a constant challenge. So the heartbreak is a big thing. The power law is a big thing. So, don't cry for investors. The life is way better, I think, than founders. That's really a hard life. But people need to realize. And then, you're so busy because you're getting so many inbound. You're getting emails and LinkedIn's and WhatsApp. And like, people are coming you from all sides. All sides. And because of the power law, like, I think the experience of founders working with me is like, you either get a quick no, which is kind of sad, but at least somebody gave you a quick no. Like, it doesn't drag you. Or you get a quick yes. That's very rare. For the companies that I get the team, I know everything. I need to do my diligence, but like it's obviously we're going to do it. And then the worst experience is like the last 4% where you can't say yes, but you can't say no. It's like they check the boxes, but I need to dig deeper. I need to check. And those people might drag because you can't really say yes or no. The process drags, and because you get new deals all the time, they kind of can drop off. Like the best, most interesting deal, you'll be all on it. You'll be calling them, right? That's how you know your VC is interested. He's calling you. He's following up. You don't have to follow up, right? So that's why VC is ghosting entrepreneurs, whatever. It's just you're overwhelmed, and you have to fight it. You have to fight it all the time, like to be
actively remind yourself.
And to be the kind of investor you wish you had.
I'm going to go back to like the transformative experience part, but this was interesting. I was listening to Keith Raboy speak to Jack Altman. He started this new podcast, I think, where he's trying to learn about how each VC operates. And Keith describes two kinds of investing: technology investing and people investing. And he describes himself as a people investor because he doesn't understand technologies that deep. And he describes Vinod Khosla, for example, as both a technology and a people investor. So from that framing, right, when you're evaluating a founder or a company, how much of it is, because you're investing in very technical founders in many cases, right? Does it have to be a match of, because as you bring up, right, that if you find yourself following up with the founder, it's a match, right? Is it also a match on a personal level?
It's a good question. It's, in my mind, an evolving hypothesis. So I started one place, but now I'm getting into a different place, I have to say, the longer I invest. High level. First of all, investing can seem very complicated, but it's very simple. Like, you need to make money. So you need to return the fund. People don't understand it. It's a power law game. The only criteria is, can this company return the fund? So the way I split it, or the way NFX look at it, is how big can it be? It has to be big enough to be a multi-billion-dollar company in less than 10 years.
So the market is very important.
Yeah, but it has to be defensible, magical, differentiated, and the people have to be exceptional. So that's kind of the 3 points. When I started, in software, I think people are more important because good people can iterate very quickly. They can just decide, write a different code today, and then I'll go to a different market and do a different product. Like Slack can start as a computer game, it becomes Slack, right? In biology, it's different because it's very hard to iterate. Like it's not like, I have a drug for cancer, and let's make a drug for Alzheimer. It's
completely different.
Completely different. Different molecule, different technology, different IP. So you need to have a core technology that works. But the longer I'm investing, especially now during a downturn in biology, I'm starting to evaluate the founder ability to fundraise is more important than the technology. Because especially in biology, especially in therapeutic, you don't really know until you go to the clinic. So the ability to raise enough money to go to the clinic to figure out if the technology works is more important than technology for many people. And I just see it. Some entrepreneurs, like I work with Emily Laprousse from Twist, she willed her company to be successful by being a beast in fundraising. Her competitor lost, and she won because she was able to fundraise. And it's a magic skill. And the right entrepreneur, I call it intangibles. I have intangibles. I wrote a blog post I call the intangible game, because that's the hardest feedback to give to founders. Like you can tell them the market is too early. You can tell them like you're too early, too late, whatever. But to tell them that they suck, what can they do with that feedback? And it's not even that they suck. It's like you need very special people. And we understand that in quarterbacks. That's a metaphor I gave in the blog post where you measure quarterbacks. We just had the NFL season end, and we're about to head the draft. So you evaluate quarterbacks by things that you can measure, like arm strength and athletic behavior and how fast they are, whatever, accuracy. But when you evaluate quarterback, there is a whole thing called intangibles. What is intangible? It's intangible. How do you measure it? How is not super biased? It's super biased.
But how do you measure charisma, right?
But you know what it is. You know what it is? It's the ball in the hand of Tom Brady or Pat Mahomes on the fourth quarter where there are 3 points, losing by 3 points, and they have the last drive. They have 2 minutes to win the game. And the intangible is like, they're going to win. Like the other side knows that. Everybody knows that.
You're betting on their ability.
Everybody knows that. Like if you look at the math, they're losing by 3 points. They only have 1 drive. It doesn't make sense. But everybody knows they're going to win, right? That's the kind of
in basketball, you can compare it to the Chicago Bulls era, right? Like
you know they're going to win. And some founders are like that. They are so compelling. You would run through a wall because their mission is so important, because the way they just compel. And the word compelling is very hard, because when we go to our IC, a lot of time we say, this founder is very compelling. But what can you do with this feedback? It's like, how can you learn? How can you become better? So I wrote a whole blog post about what we are looking for at founders.
What's from like your 5 years in venture now or more, what have you learned about the DNA of the founder you're describing? Is it like what are the foundations? Is it storytelling? All these things we can't measure necessarily, right? Is it charisma? And how do you describe willing things into existence? Like, do you look for stories from their life that tell you, okay, like, yeah, this person is going to run through a wall?
Not really. I think it starts with caring. Like they really need to want and care about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, and you see it during hype times. There's a lot of what we call entrepreneurs. People who want to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Usually people who go to consulting firms or like after MBA.
We get that in every wave.
Yeah, the cool thing is to go to startups. Let's start a company because it's cool.
Yeah.
No, it's hard. Yeah. It sucks. The only reason to do it is because you have to do it, right? So, it starts by really wanting to do it and really caring about that and really going deep. I think the best founders knows everything about their business. Like they know the technology. It's levels and levels deep. Like no matter how many questions you ask them, I think Andreessen called it like the idea maze, right? They went through the idea maze. They thought about everything. Yeah. I think they care deeply. They're easy to communicate. They are exciting. Like you get energized by talking to them. Yeah. Like you want to live in the world they create. And I tell people all the time, some people are mad about Elon Musk right now.
Yeah.
And I tell them, look, that guy thought about problems in the world and found big problems. Like, we need to go to Mars. So we need to have renewable electricity generation and consumption. So, and he started companies around them. And so he had the vision for a world as he think that should exist. And he was pissed off that the world today is not that world. And using his just how pissed off and his energy, he ripped a hole in the universe and dragged all of us to this world. We live in his universe. We live in the universe that Tesla exists. We live in the universe that the iPhone exists. Yeah. Right? Because of those people. They made it happen and we just live there. Like they dragged us to their universe, to their version of the universe. That's kind of the magic of entrepreneurship. Right? Yeah. And I tell people all the time, once you do it once and you understand that you have this power to change, it's kind of the cliche of changing the world, but that's what it means. You have the multiverse of the different outcomes of the world, and you believe in one outcome, and you make that outcome exist, not for you, for everybody. Everybody. All the naysayers, all the people who don't want to live in the universe. You live in Elon Musk universe's bitches. You want to change that? You need to create your own universe. Yeah. Right? So, that's the magic of entrepreneurship. And I think the right people, you just believe in their version of the universe and you want that version to exist. Like in the infinite multiverse, you want that thread, that version to exist.
That storyline to play out.
Yeah. And you put a lot of energy to increase the probability of that thing to become kind of our universe.
So you were there, right? You started a company.
In a small place.
But in your own way, you were there. You probably had to will things into existence.
Oh, yeah.
Every other month. What do you think? So instead of making it like a summary of what you've seen from the investing side, I want to maybe dive deeper into what got you into that place. What were some early experiences that you think shaped you to be someone who was willing to will things into existence, who had that agency, drive, who could tell stories, bring people along?
It's a great question because nothing in my past, if you saw me as an early teenager, you wouldn't believe, I wouldn't believe that I'll be where I am right now. I was this chubby kid, sitting, drinking lemonade I made with way too much sugar, eating a sandwich, reading a book. I wasn't very people person. I wasn't very popular at high school and middle school. I don't know what changed. I think, first of all, a lot of the science fiction book I read really inspired me about the future because you see a future, it portrayed so beautiful, a future that you said, fuck, I want to live in that future. Oh, the future that people can rejuvenate and go back to 18, and they call it second life and third life. I want to live in that future, right? So you see a version of the future, so you can imagine it easier. So you're more susceptible of investing in things because, the thing you're making, I read about it in the book 20 years ago. Yeah, I know where that's going. That was helpful. I also had some entrepreneurial experiences early on. I remember when I was doing my first degree, for example, we had to get lab coats. So for whatever reason, he said, I'll do it. And so I ran around, find a supplier. I got leverage, so it was, $10. I sold them for $30. And I made like a few $1,000s like in a day. And I thought to myself, after doing that, like, I could have hired somebody for like $10 an hour or $5 an hour. He'll do all the work. I just had the idea and the vision and the knowledge. He'll do all the work. And I would have still made a few $1,000s, and I wouldn't have to do anything, So there is something about even the initial thing of like just doing things. And again, as I told you, there is only one thing you need to do to be a founder. You need to do stuff. You need to stop talking about things and start doing them. There is so much power about just doing, persevering and doing. Those are the most powerful things ever. Because over time, like if somebody has a drive and just applying his will on the world will change, right? Slower or faster, but it will change. Like that's kind of the magical thing about existing. And if you don't give up, and if you have the energy and the drive to do stuff, you'll be amazed how much you achieve. And it's very magical and it's very kind of addictive.
Was that one of the first instances where you realized that you don't need anyone's permission? You can just do things? That's
one thing about Israeli. People there don't ask for permission too much. They just do stuff.
So that's a phenomena of proximity to, I guess, a nation or people where you just don't look for permission to do things.
You prefer to say you're sorry than to ask for permission, right? Forgiveness and permission. But and I never understood people that was afraid of doing stuff.
Interesting.
Because I remember people saying me after my postdoc starting a company, it's like, oh, how brave. And I was like, brave? I was getting $40,000 a year as a postdoc. I raised money. It's not my money. I raised money. And then I'm paying myself 3x I used to pay myself. That's great. That's upside. Like I couldn't find a job better than that. Like what risk? Like I'm in control. I know the budget. Nobody can fire me. Like what the fuck? So I never. It's the way you look at risk. I think it's very interesting.
So I think that's an interesting point because I would argue that IQ does not translate into risk appetite, right? So there are very intelligent people out there in the world, but not all of them are starting companies, right?
I just talked to somebody who wants to start a fund. And I talked to her, and after an hour, I told her, look, we've been talking for an hour, and I'm trying to inspire you to start a fund, but I still feel like when the meeting is over and you go back home, you won't start a fund. So I thought, what's your barrier? Why aren't you doing it? She told me, like, I'm afraid to not be successful, And I told her, like, if you're not doing it, you're 100% not successful. Like, you failed. Like, you failed. Like, the default is you failed. You haven't done it. Like, if you try, you might win. And by the way, you're not taking money when you start a fund. You're not taking money from orphans. Everybody will invest in you. When I was a CEO, I took it very personally. People gave me money, and I felt like, oh, I'm so responsible for their money, and oh my God, I don't want to lose their money. Now, as an investor, I know that I have a portfolio, and we know about the power law, and some of them will go to zero as long as people are doing their best. And sometimes they will not work out, and that's fine. That's part of the magic of Silicon Valley. You're allowed not to be successful if you're doing the right thing, and just whatever the market or whatever change.
Do you think perseverance can be learned, or is it inherent? Same for risk appetite. I just had this thought as you were telling me this story.
I think willpower is magical. Like I even think about the way people look, right? Everybody wants to look good. Everybody can look good, right? At least physically, right? As long as they are healthy, they can go to the gym, they can eat well, but most people don't look as good as they wish they will. And willpower is this magical ability to sculpt your life based on your will. Like I want to do something and I will achieve it. And some people have it and they can achieve a lot, and some people don't have it and they don't get anywhere. But
so it's programmed into you.
Some people don't believe they have agency to change. Like that's the one thing. You have to start by believing that you can change. That's necessarily not sufficient. You need to want to do something and believe that success is a possible outcome. Right? That's a beginning thing. And then willpower is part of it, but also there is a lot of hacks and tricks that, because nobody has a perfect willpower willpower change over time.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is why just keep doing stuff and not giving up is so important. Because it doesn't matter if you have willpower, if you want to do something, you just do it every day and it compounds. And you'll be amazed how much you
your
achieve.
confidence in yourself compounds and your willpower, I guess, compounds. So the follow-up question I have is, do you think this is where places like Silicon Valley or like these hubs where you're in proximity with people with like high bias for action, high agency, and even if you are not programmed that way, like, you know, from your early life, just by spending time with them, you just realize, oh, like, if you could just do that, you can just email, you know, someone and...
As I told you, monkey see, monkey do. Like, if you see somebody
you
do
mentioned that about your
something-
Stanford experience.
Yeah, and NFX stands for network effects.
Yeah.
And why we care about network effects is because, you know, most of the value, most of the defensibility in software has been network effects because it's very easy to copy Facebook, very hard to copy 4 billion users, right? And places are also network effects.
Places
so
are-
I was with this curiosity camp that Innovation Endeavor and a different camp is doing, and they brought one of their LP, the former CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt, to talk. And somebody asked him, like, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Yeah.
And he thought, and he said, "Oh, be lucky." And then everybody laughed. What does that's the most useless advice ever. Like, be lucky. Great. You know, how do you become lucky? I said, no. You can live where lucky people live.
Yeah.
Right? And what does it mean about that? There is network effects in different places. Definitely in the Valley, there is network effects. Like, people are lucky here. Like, why is the houses so expensive here? Because all the people working at NVIDIA lives here.
Yeah.
And a third of them have more than $25 million because they have a $3 trillion company, right?
Yeah.
So, and they're not alone. You have the network effects of entrepreneurs, of investors, of universities, of startups, small and big. So you have enough ecosystem to grow mighty trees.
Right.
In some places, they don't have the topsoil to grow this mighty because they don't have enough of whatever resource.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to build network effects and it's very hard to break network effects.
Yeah.
Like during COVID, people thought, oh, the Bay Area network effects is over because people are not meeting whatever. So they went to Miami and everything else. That broke up very quickly. Miami is not a big tech hub now.
No,
everybody
a lot of people came back.
came back here. Why?
Yeah.
Because the network brought them back together. And I see it all the time. I see, like when you're in the Valley, there is a short period of time where being an Uber of something is the most important thing you can say, and you'll be the smart, and you'll be right in vogue. And a day after that, it'd be the stupidest thing ever.
Yeah.
And if you're not there, and if you came from Miami, and you're saying, oh, I'm the Uber of something, like a week after, it's not cool anymore, you're the yokel come to town.
Yeah.
Or you say, oh, I'm raising a $5 million A round.
Yeah.
But what do you mean five? It's a small seed. Like, what are you talking about? Like, when people don't know the numbers, or they don't know the rules, or don't know how to talk, how to pitch. So there's a thing about network effects and about being in the Valley that I think is extremely helpful. That's why I moved here. One reason. Like, this is the NFL of investing.
So through proximity, some of these things can be overcome and learned.
Yeah, I think a lot of the learnings, you can get them online and podcasts and everything else. You can learn a lot, but I think still, the faster you learn, why people are so excited about AI, because of the rate of
Learning.
the rate of improvement. Because we understand exponential, and the most important part of the exponential is the exponent. Like the sharper the exponent, the faster things become weirder. Like people forget, ChatGPT is like 2 years old.
Yeah.
And the difference between the first one to what we have right now to what we'll have in 2 years from now is so crazy. And people think about what will be in 20 years. Like their mind is blown. So the exponent is so fast that the change is so rapid that that's where all the excitement. And I think the rate of learning, your internal exponent, the way you compound is bigger here because you are surrounded by people. You learn, you can learn faster. And with other companies, you can see how they're doing, you know, so
Yeah, that's I think an interesting conclusion we came to on perseverance and proximity and how that can potentially change your outcome. And I think that Eric Schmidt's story was a good one. Become lucky.
Become lucky.
Yeah.
Get born lucky.
Make good choices about where you are.
Born to a billionaire.
Yeah. Don't be in Miami.
I don't know. I don't want to. You know, it's a nice city.
No, but I can relate to that in some ways. Where growing up in Pakistan, like you see that you don't have people working on longevity, right? Like the startups people started working on 5 years ago were probably around fintech or mobility. The Uber for Pakistan was happening, 7, 8, 9 years ago. It's because that's a problem area for consumers in that region, right? And they're addressing whatever problems they know in that region, and they're not thinking about building global. And I sometimes wonder if that's what constrains them, like being in that proximity. They 100% have the potential to, build global companies or...
People are people. Genetically, we're not that different.
Yeah.
So I think it's amazing sometimes you go on a plane, you fly for 2 hours, and the culture is totally different.
Yeah.
You move from democracy to autocracy. You move from high GDP for low GDP, from people dying at their 80s to people dying at their 40s. On the plane for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And what's the difference? The same genetics. People are people. It's all about the culture and the kind of the environment that we find ourselves. So, yeah, on one hand, you can be super optimistic. Everybody can be that successful. On the other hand, is you kind of sad about everybody who doesn't have these same opportunities. I think the success of Silicon Valley and the US is because it's still the place that drones so many of the bright and brightest, because it's the biggest game in town, and they want to play in the NFL, they want to play in the NBA, they want to play in the biggest arena.
Well, what do you think is like a fundamental thing about the US that drives innovation at large?
Again, the US is very lucky. Talking about born lucky, like people kind of complain about, I don't know, Mexico, drugs cartel or whatever. I live in Israel. We wish Mexico was one of our neighbors, right? So you have good neighbors.
We have Afghanistan and Iran, I know.
Yeah, so you have, like, the US have good neighbors.
Yeah.
They geographically, they have, they have oceans in most sides. Like, none of their enemies are close by. They have all the raw materials they need. Like, all the food, they're exporting food. So they're very lucky geographically. I think they have the capital, they have the right system. I think you can become wealthy in the US. I think they have the culture and the science and technology. US have also a lot of issues. Coming from outside of the US, I see the benefits and also the problems with the US. But I think altogether, it's a place that if you're successful, you can be very successful. And that's still true.
Yeah.
People can come from anywhere and become really big.
Meritocracy prevails.
Yeah, and it's also less, like, failure is less discouraged. It's not like Japan. You don't have to do harakiri, like, if you fail or go to jail or something, people will take your house. Like, you can make mistakes and you can try again. And I think in the Valley, like, if you... Like, entrepreneur that did his best and his company failed is more likely to raise money next time than, like, anywhere in the world. Oh, you already failed. Like, why would we invest in you? But here it's like, oh, good, you learned.
Yeah.
Now you're ready.
You'll do better.
Yeah.
So, celebrating failure, that's a good one.
I don't celebrate, like, I think when people say celebrating failure, I think, no, like, we need success. We need the winners. We
in
just
the sense
understand...
that it's not discouraged.
Yeah, so
I think
some
that's
people...
not the term I was looking for.
Some people now, the latest SpaceX launch, a Starship launch. So it went up to space. The first stage landed, which is kind of still amazing how they catch it with this silly thing. And the Starship exploded in orbit. And a lot of the press that really don't like Elon Musk right now kind of poo-pooed him, like, oh, failure, another failure. And I was like, seriously? A US company was able to do some amazing things. They're iterating fast. They're iterating where everybody can see them and they can see the failure. But look at their Falcon 9, 99.whatever% reliability. That's how you get there. By iterating and failing until you're successful. And they're super successful. So I don't understand this kind of negativity around.
The other side is they're doing 100 launches a year, and they're doing 90% of the world's launches, which
it's amazing.
Nobody talks about. I guess, like, there's, again, two sides to every story, and you can always be optimistic.
I just don't understand why there's negativity. Again, that's kind of failure that people appreciate here, like iterating, getting to the... But still successing. Like, they are able to land the rockets. They are able to get to orbit. Like, if they just failed all the time, nobody would be celebrating them. It's like failure in the way of succeeding.
I guess an American trait is the lens with which you view failure, or with which you view progress, in a sense, right? Like, instead of focusing on the part that blew up, you're focusing on the part that succeeded, or the part that worked. How do you think breakthrough innovation happens?
It feels almost like a tech tree. Have you ever played Civilization?
No.
It's a computer game back in the day. It still exists, but you start as one village and you research technologies, and then you grow and kind of until you control the world. But they have the notion of a tech tree. So you start by discovering writing, and then you discover pottery, and then you combine those things to discover philosophy, and then So I feel like technology is very much like a tech tree, where sometimes things exist because it's their time to exist. So until we unlocked computer science, right, we couldn't do AI, right? When we unlocked when we unlocked the internet and the data behind the internet, and we unlocked GPUs and their capabilities, and the right algorithm, computer science, that together unlocked AI, right? And AI will unlock other things. So some innovation will happen when it should happen. Right. It doesn't matter if you took Elon Musk or whatever, and 200 years ago, you couldn't build Tesla. Even if you knew everything you needed to do, because you need all the support, all the infrastructure of the world to get to a point where you can build that in the right time. So some of that is just, it gets unlocked over time. But some of us is still the right founder can get the innovation to come online maybe 10 to 20 years before it will just naturally happen. So I believe that electric car would have happened sometime, right? Just because the battery price was going down to a point where it just made sense. Because electric is so efficient, everything else, it made sense to have electric car, right? Elon Musk just brought it back earlier by 10 or 5 years. Right. Then it would have happened. Like it's hard to A/B test the universe, so you don't really know. But I think great people can do things faster because they see the unlock before other people see it. And by the way, I don't think it's binary. I think there is a point in time where something is doable, but there is a difference between doable but very, very extremely hard, where very easy doable, right? You know, because AI in 5 years will be very easy than AI right now, because it will be more data, the chips will be better, right? So the chances of us unlocking AI in 5 years are way higher than now. But Sam Altman saw it way before other people, so he was the first to unlock it when it was very hard.
What is an example of a technology or a product that's doable right now, but it's not probably the right timing?
I don't know about the right timing, but like what we're doing at Renewal, where we make human embryos from stem cells, is cutting edge thing that just published right now. We're not there yet because we still need to develop technology, but it's doable.
Yeah.
And we're one of the first people in the world to realize it's doable and invest in that space, right? But it's on the cutting edge, and that makes it very hard and maybe taking more time than we expect. It depends. Different technologies, different companies. Look, you want to be in the right time. Being too early or too late is like, it's too bad. Both sides are bad. Yeah. But I would prefer to be slightly too early than slightly too late. Because again, when you're too late, you already have all the competitors, you're behind. It's very, very, very hard to get first. So it requires, by the way, different kind of entrepreneurs. So maybe Elon Musk can be too late for AI and bootstrap to be number one, because then he can raise all the money and all the execution, while you need different kind of entrepreneurs to do it early on. So
that's where I guess your point about them being really good at fundraising comes in, because if you're looking for someone who's slightly early, you need them to last longer than everybody else.
Capital is a weapon in company formation, in business. You know, so I saw so many companies where they have better technologies, but they were worse at fundraising, and they got acquired by the entrepreneurs who were able to raise the money, but didn't have any technology. Yeah, he just raised the money and bought them for nothing, and now he has technology and money. You know, so it's all about winning, and there are different ways to win. Like you need to have the real value, something real, but the soft skills are so important in business. Like some companies will win because the head of sales know how to sell better than the other guy, you know, or is more likable. You know, he got the deal with that the other company did, even though their technology might have been slightly better or worse.
Which is network effects at the end of the day.
Yeah.
What have you learned about storytelling in being on both sides as a founder and now on the other side as you see so many pitches?
I don't like the word storytelling because it feels fake. It's like a skill that you can be better at to bullshit people. What I like and what we are trying to gravitate towards over time, and I think the best entrepreneurs are just authentic, right? It's not it's
The best
not about
story is being
storytelling.
yourself.
They really care, and they really solve a big problem. So when you solve a big problem and you really care, you can present it in a horrible, disgusting, depressing, boring way, or very exciting way. So some people are great storytelling.
Communication style.
Yeah, and they can take something boring or not that interesting and make it super interesting and compelling, right? But I believe in a combination of both. Having something really exciting to talk about and being really good at talking about that because you're coming from a place of real authenticity. And I think we see it now in politics and other places. People are gravitating toward what they believe is authentic and not kind of people playing them and telling kind of, PC, middle of the road.
Not hiding behind PR agencies.
Yeah, just saying like why do they care about something and what they're going to do.
It does, again, come back to communication styles, right? So that there is something that can be learned probably as a founder.
You have to don't be shy to tell your story. So one of our best founder, Jay Glanville, a company called Centivax, they make universal vaccines. So imagine one shot of vaccine that is good for all the strains of the flu, past and present.
Interesting.
And future. So it's off the shelf, and they believe they can read the world of flu, and the same technology can read the world of COVID and can read the world out of every virus one by one. And the way he presented, he said, like, look, imagine that we're doing that. It will be something huge, not just for our generation. No more flu for our generation. It's no more flu for all future generation. So we're doing something that will help all the arc of human development for as long as humanity will exist. One problem we had that killed a lot of babies and a lot of adults will be gone. One less problem to worry about. No more mask, no more whatever. Like COVID fucked with us, we'll fuck with COVID. Like, so super compelling. Like as an investor, if I had a small way to make that vision happen, put it on my tombstone. Like I'll be so happy. Like, and he knows how to tell the story in the right arc of history and why his technology is going to win, why it's good. He has to have real technology.
Right,
it will not stand on just a story.
Baseline, yeah.
Yeah.
What stands out about his communication style?
Very authentic, very much from the heart. I would run through a wall for him. Like every time you speak, I'm like, amen. Like I got it. I'm with you. And you need that because entrepreneurship is so hard, and sometimes things are not going as well, and you need to really believe to will a company to exist. All right.
Yeah. We're approaching the end, so we'll do a rapid fire. And what is a book you've read recently that you would recommend?
I have to say that recently, I listen to books more than read,
or listen to books
because I read for my work. So by the time I go home and want to relax, I like listening, and also it fills my time. Like when I do the dishes, I listen to a book. When I'm stuck in traffic, I listen to a book. So so I listen to a lot of books. And recently, I love a genre. It's a very unique genre called lit RPG. It's where people get leveled up and get stronger and get better over time. And I love that it's very much like entrepreneurship. Like people are getting better by wanting to be better.
Yeah.
And I wish I had a character list and I work hard and then it will be like strength +1 or intelligence +1 or luck +1. I like that more as a kind of brain candy, just, to pass time. But on the deep side, I think books that really were important is kind of the Singularity is Near was important. Abundance, the future is better than you think. You want to be optimistic, the rational optimist.
Yeah.
And a bunch of science fiction books that really show the future that can exist. One of the books I really like is Peter F. Hamilton has a great book series, The Commonwealth Saga. And one of the things they have in that future is a rejuvenation treatment. So the rich people do it every 30 years. The rest of the population, they work hard instead of to retire, to go to the tank and get back to 18. And they call it, as I told you, second life and third life. And they say, oh, life sucks, and rejuvenate and do it all over again. And I'm like, it's so much better than what we have.
Yeah.
So, those kind of books that really show a future that can exist. And you're like, okay, I want to exist in that future. Really inspire you to kind of invest and work on that space.
Who was a role model early in your career that changed the trajectory of your career?
Which career? Because I was at science and then
Each stage, I
entrepreneurship
guess,
and
yeah.
now investing. It's interesting. Like I think definitely as a scientist, my professor during my PhD, Nathan Nelson from Tel Aviv, was very influential. He's a hard worker. He always came to work. It doesn't matter weekend, weekdays, vacation. He always came. Like really cared about the science, really passionate about it. So hugely inspiring in that regard. And also the stories you read about kind of the famous scientists, that changed the world by inventing vaccines or inventing other things. And then entrepreneurship, people diss on him, but again, I talked about him a lot during this. Like I think Elon Musk have done so much, and like it's kind of impressive how much he did. I think the only the downside for him is that he got to a point that nobody can give him feedback, because who in the world, like with all his achievements, like who in the world he can listen to and say like, oh, that's smart. Like you've done more than I do, so you can tell me what to do. But if you don't have feedback, you can find yourself doing stupid things. So I hope he has people that he can listen to. But it's amazing how much he achieved. But doing hard things. And then in investing.
In entrepreneurship, who's someone that you were close to that change or impacted you directly?
Yeah, in general, you try to learn from the best, like about the power law and about what's important. But in the end, you have to be your own person and believe in what you believe and be very authentically you. I think that's what Naval said. I think something that I'm sending to my kids all the time to read is Naval podcast about how to be rich without being lucky.
Yeah,
it's one of the best kind of 2-3 hours of condensed advice. And he said win the differentiation game by being authentic, right? He didn't say it exactly like that, but like nobody can be authentically you more than you.
Yeah.
So if you really care about something and if you really focus on what makes you unique, you can be the best version of that.
That comes from a lot of introspection.
Yeah. So you need to understand where you're strong, where you're weak.
Yeah.
Be open to get feedback and to know your blind spot. I definitely have weak spot and blind spot. And
be intellectually honest about it.
Yeah, and like I think one thing I'm truly am is like I'm happy to get feedback. Like I want to be better. Like I want to be better. I don't want to. My biggest fear is to become the kind of version of bad investor that I had in the past, and not knowing about it. Like what's a blind spot? Like it's one thing to know about something and trying to improve, but not knowing about how you suck. That's the worst. So I'm always happy to get feedback and try to improve. And
how do you learn new skills? Do you like recruit a personal advisory board, the best in the people in that like area to try to go learn from them?
Go back to caring. Like you really need to care about something, and then you just authentically learn all about it. When you're a geek, when you're a Star Wars geek, you really care about Star Wars, and you know everything about Star Wars, and you know all the different minutiae, right? So I was the geek of science, so I learned about science because I authentically liked it and cared about it, right? And that's what really separates the best entrepreneurs. They are a geek of their company. They care authentically more than anybody else. So it's what's extremely hard for other people are extremely easy for them.
Right.
Like for other people, reading all the documents of some legal crap is horrible. Yeah. But for you, it's your company, so you really care about it. You're really passionate about it. For you, it's like, well, the most interesting thing in the world. Like it's my company. Like that's the rules. So you read it, and they don't. Like so.
Skills follow interest.
For sure, and it requires just doing the work. Like doing the work, getting better. Like there's not. It's just like working out or anything else. Like repetition reps and experience. Like and learning. Like I think the good thing about our world right now is the information is out there.
Yeah.
Like curating the information, because there's also a lot of bad information. But curating the information with the right people, getting the access, and learning is you can do it.
Yeah.
Like you can get any piece of knowledge. It's just about curating the right one and just doing the work.
But it's surprising though how many people don't know how to learn. Learning how to learn seems to
Ask your ChatGPT. Ask your AI.
Well, we'll do a last one. I liked a question you mentioned. I think an advice to your younger self. So I'll ask you that question and throw it back to you.
I don't know, advice. I think during my time as a founder, I had some really rough times. I lost my hair for a reason. And I remember a day that I almost had a feeling that the future version of Omri is telling the current version, right now the past version, that everything will be fine. Don't stress about things too much. You'll be fine. I remember feeling it like very strongly that day. Right. And it was a really dark day. And initially I took some solace from that, but then like I'm a very rational person. It's like I can't really know. It's just a feeling. Like I don't really know. And I was back stressing. And then everything was fine. Yeah. So looking back, I might have said that to that person because I wanted him to chill. I think in general, I need to kind of, my advice is like, do what you've done. It took you to the right place, but, chill the fuck up a little bit. I'm way too stressed about stuff. And it comes from caring, right? Over time, you can't have all the CEOs being psychopaths because they're the only one that doesn't care and they can last long enough. But if you care, like I care about my companies, I'm involved in 30 companies. It's like being a fan of 30 different NFL teams. Like not all of them are going to win the Super Bowl every year, right? And you have a lot of bad news every day and some good news, but but the other side of the table, if you don't care, that's also not good. So how to care and be helpful without being overwhelmed or being too negative or
losing more hair.
That's too late. I'm done. I have nothing to lose anymore. No downside.
Where should people reach out to you and what should they reach out to you for?
So look, I think that's why I tell people never pay anybody to refer you to investor because you should be able to reach any investor. So I'm very much available, omri@nfx.com. I'm online, NFX. We're here in San Francisco and Palo Alto. You're welcome to visit us. For me personally, as a general partner, I can invest in everything, but my passion is the intersection of tech and bio. Seed stage, so $2 to $5 million lead check at the seed stage. We only lead, we don't follow. Investors have one job to make their mind. I don't respect people who don't make their own minds. Platform technologies can produce either therapies, diagnostic, food, ag, materials, whatever, but more than one thing. I don't like to invest in like one molecule for one indication. I love longevity space. Again, the future of healthcare. But in general, even though my focus is TechBio, like I love any deep tech. I'm collaborating with my partner Morgan on space deals. We invest in a company, the new GPS company. We invest in a company making data center in space. So quantum, everything cool that I see how we can move the needle and can return the fund. Talk to me.
You'll be getting more emails from me. All right, Omri, it has been an absolute pleasure.
Sure.
Thank you so much for being an early guest on We the Builders.
Yeah.